everyone! So as you can probably tell by the title of this video, today we're going to be learning about assemblies in Inventor. So assemblies are incredibly important, and they're basically the last missing piece you need in order to consider yourself done with learning the basics, the fundamentals of CAD. So basically an assembly is a group of individual parts that you combine together, you constrain together, so that you can make a full mechanism or a full robot. So all our robot is it's an assembly of different parts that we've made in Inventor. And today we're going to be learning about how you can assemble things, parts that you've made. So what I have up right now is basically a quick look at the final product of what we're going to make today. So I don't know if any of y'all will recognize this, but basically this is the Tower of Hanoi, is what it's supposed to be. So Tower of Hanoi is actually a math problem where basically you're supposed to try and take this stack of discs and move it onto this peg in the same order, but you're only allowed to move discs one at a time, and you can't put any disc on top of a disc that's smaller than it. It's pretty simple with just 3 discs, but it can get more complicated if you add more. If you want, if you feel so inclined, you can look at that more on your own time. But basically I'm just doing this because it's actually a pretty neat way to show you a lot of the basics of making assemblies. So for this video, I pre-made a bunch of different parts. I'll just go through them quickly here, all the different parts. If you want, you can pause the video and go back through all the ones that I just skimmed through and try and make them on your own. If you have the time, that would be super cool if you want a challenge. I'm also going to put a link down below where you can download those files and just use them so that we don't waste time making the parts and you can just use the parts that I made. Okay, so basically the first part of making an assembly is you have to create the assembly file. So you go to File, New, Assembly. So earlier we were making parts, now we're making an assembly. And it's really empty right now, we don't have anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to place, you can also click P, we're going to place a part down. So the first part that I want to place down is the base, because the base is exactly what is kind of the grounding thing. So we just click, and it's there. And the way we move around is the same as in just a part. So we can rotate around it, look around. And basically, we have this part here on its own, and since this is the main body, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click the part, and then go all the way down here and click Grounded. And the reason I'm clicking Grounded is because I don't want this part to be able to move in space. I can't drag it anywhere anymore, and that's because it is the central part, the central part of our assembly. So the next part, if you remember what we just looked at, the next part is these pegs that we want to add sticking up out of there. So I'm going to get the pegs. I'm going to click Hanoi Stand Peg. And what you can actually do is I can click this as many times as I want. So I want 3. And when you're done placing all the things down, you just click Escape and get out of it. So I have these 3 pegs. And now we're going to learn our first constraint, our first way to connect these pegs in this hole. Because you can see I can try and put it in there, but I rotate around, it's not there, like it's not really working for us. So what we have to do is we have to go up here and use this constraint button. You can also just click the C key to open this up, which is what I'll do here. And you get this really nice menu of a bunch of different constraints. So the one that we use the most on our team is the insert constraint. It's this one, so you click that. And all it does is it puts one hole up against another hole. So what we want to do here is we can highlight over different holes, so this is one. And then we can zoom into over here. You can see you can select the top or the bottom. We want to select the bottom because we want this bottom hole to be flush with the bottom of this little hole here. So I'm going to click that. Boom, I click Apply. Perfect. So now I can do the exact same thing to these ones. I can do that, bottom, apply, and that, bottom, apply. So we've applied all of those constraints. So now what we want to do is we want to place our little discs. So I'm just going to put all of them. You can place multiple things at the same time. There we go. They're all there. So the way that we're going to put these on is I'm going to show you 3 different ways that you can place these down onto a peg. I'm going to preface this with, I think insert is the best way to go for this. I would not do anything but insert if I was making an actual assembly with this, but I'm just going to show you some of the other ways you could constrain it, just so that you get a sense of what they're like. So the first thing I'm going to do is just constraining it. And one thing you need to note is that the holes don't need to be the same size to constrain together. So we want the top one, put it on there, boom. Even though this center hole is a bit bigger, it still has the same central axis, so it's fine. So that one's good. And then I'm going to show you really the only other constraint that we use with any frequency on the team, which is mate. We use it a lot less frequently than insert. But basically what mate does is it makes two surfaces flush. So what I'm going to do is I will mate this light blue disk to this dark blue disk. And what that means is I will click this face on here and this face on there, and as you will see, it puts that face on there. But as you can see, it's really not that constrained. It can still move around. So again, like I said, insert would totally be better for this. But another thing you can do with mate is you can mate two axes together. So this axis going down the center of this disk, I will mate that to this axis here that's going through the peg, and now we've mated that on top of each other. Okay, so the final thing I'm going to do is teach you about mating with offsets. So basically what offsets are, it's like if I mate this piece to, oopsies, where did my mouse go? Okay. If I mate that part to that, that's not where we want it to be. But I can actually go over here and click like offset 2. And what that does is it says, we're going to make your planes parallel, but we're going to put 2 inches between them. And this can be pretty useful when you're spacing things out, but you want them to be parallel. So I just click 2 because I know that the height of each of these is 1 inch. And again, this is a really kind of disgusting way to do this. Sorry. This is a kind of disgusting way to constrain this, but it works out. And again, we have to do the same thing with the axis constraining. And look at that. We made a Tower of Hanoi. So one last thing that you might be wondering is, oh my gosh, if I've made a constraint and I want to get rid of it, like say you actually want to attempt the problem in your assembly, which I would totally suggest if you want to have fun. So you'd find the part over here in this little inventory of parts. So I want to take the top off first. What you can do is it shows you each of the constraints. So first what you can do is you can just delete that constraint and it's gone. So now it's only mated to the middle of this peg, this axis. We can get rid of this axis. And then let's say, oh, I really want to move this disk over here. I want to move it over to this peg. And now we moved it. And that's basically how you would go about solving this problem. I would solve it on your own for fun. So, oh, one last thing. This isn't relevant for this example, but it might be relevant for things you do in the future. Say I don't want to look at the green disk right now for whatever reason. Maybe I don't like the color green. You can right-click on Hanoi Top and then click off the visibility, and then it goes away. And I can bring it back now. So yeah, that was making the Tower of Hanoi. I hope you enjoyed. In the next video, we're going to be talking about making assemblies, but using parts that we download off of the internet. So how we can make an assembly that involves a gear that might be too tricky to CAD, or a motor that might be way too tricky to CAD. And we'll see how we can incorporate those into our assemblies. See you then.